right, welcome to the first ever Think Piece podcast. That's a working title, work in progress.
Ooh, Think Piece.
Think Piece, yeah.
Is that P-E-A-C-E?
I know.
Maybe we don't tell people. Just let them.
Days, yeah.
Just let them infer what they will from it.
We're three hippies.
All five people that'll listen to this besides us. This is Jason Behler.
What are we talking about?
I'm here with Brennan Basford and Dave Weber, three old-time friends that decided that it would be a good idea to record ourselves talking about interesting articles. So to start off with, I'm going to let Brennan and Dave introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their job history, because that is today's topic, is work. So Dave, go ahead.
All right, I'm Dave Weber. I live in Houston, Texas. My first proper job was in the kitchen at a nursing home, which was as gross and disgusting as you would think. It was basically slopping pureed vegetables onto trays and serving them to senior citizens. So it was slightly depressing, but, it was a good place to start. From there, I mainly had summer jobs, like I was a bank teller for a couple summers. Did a couple IT internships where I realized that I sort of hated computer programming. And then early, I started work at the company I'm at now right after grad school, and I've been there now for 11 and a half years, which is kind of hard to believe. Done a variety of things. I started in Columbus, Ohio, doing some supply chain and procurement work. I moved down to Houston in 2009, and I've done some logistics and commercial roles. I did another 2-year stint in procurement, including a year living in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And now I am director of our epoxy resin business for the Americas. So yeah, that's a brief rundown of my very, very exciting employment history.
Let me tell you, that's some of the best epoxy resin on the market.
We like to tell people it is the absolute finest, and you're not going to have more, customer-centric, customer-friendly people than us at Hexion. I mean,
than you, Dave Weber.
Yes. You get to see my smiling face and have me buy you dinner. I mean, what else do you want? Come on.
Oh, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Epoxy resin sales expert.
Curse on this, right?
Oh yeah, this is not PG by any sense. No. All
right, cursing fucking allowed. Good.
Just so we have that out there. Yes,
that nursing home job was fucking disgusting. That's what it was.
All right, so that's Dave's work history. Been all over the map, from nursing homes to epoxy resin salesman of the free world, and now on to our second host, Brennan Basford. Tell us a little bit about your job history, Brennan.
Yeah, man, mine's been maybe a little more varied than Dave's. I started working.
I would say much varied.
Much more. I started working as a busboy at a restaurant when I was 14 in the summer times, and also worked at the sanitation district one summer.
Taking naps at Joe Went's house.
Yeah, painting giant tanks of shit and taking naps at Joe Went's house. We had a good time with that. I've had a lot of different kind of summer jobs. After college, I bartended for quite some time until I got my muse and decided to become an art teacher, and I did that for a few years. Then that was when I was in Tucson, Arizona. After that, I went into extracurricular kids after-school classes, and had a really good time with that. But ultimately, I chased the money, and now I work for a software company that we work with invoicing and financial software. So it's pretty nerdy stuff.
The man finds his way into everyone's life at some point. It's inevitable.
Yeah, man. I stood at a desk fucking nerd. I said I'd never do that, but you do, man. On another happier non-nerd note, I had my motorcycle fired up and racing it at 15 miles an hour all around the neighborhood today.
Yes, that's amazing.
I can't believe you own a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, man. It's like I took it out of my buddy's backyard, and he'd had it rotting away for 20 years, and I spent the last many months.
When did you move to Eastern Kentucky?
Yeah. Dude, you got to send Jason a picture. It's badass. I love it.
Yeah. Can you get
really
a text
cool.
while we're on the? Can you get a text while we're on the phone? Yeah. Take a picture of it today.
I have no idea.
I'll send you a picture. This makes for scintillating podcast once again. Me texting you pictures.
Hey, audience, it's a cool bike. You can't see it.
Don't worry.
I'll text all of you too.
You can put a picture on the site, Jason.
Yeah, no doubt. When I put this up on the site, we'll definitely have a picture of that. So visual accompaniment. I'm sure that my description.
What site is this on?
Well, I haven't put it up just quite yet. I'll let you guys know.
Thinkpeace.com's probably taken.
No, not with the PEACE though.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to get extreme with the spelling, throw a Z in there, an X, or something like that.
Exactly.
So, well, I guess I'll
Jason, tell us about your work history.
Oh, well, mine is also sort of all over the map. I started my illustrious career as a sandwich artist at Subway at the ripe old age of 14. And from there, from quitting that job at Kings Island. Yeah. I quit from Kings Island. Called in on the payphone at Kings Island back when those still existed. And told them in no uncertain terms that I would never be back there. Sometimes you got to ride the beast. I don't know what else to.
It's amazing. It's an amazing roller coaster.
The beast drives you.
From there, I went to 3 long years at Gleason Trucking, which actually weren't that long. That was actually a really fun job. Probably the most
I feel like that was a good job.
Fun I've ever had, at a job. Just because I was working with friends and. All you were doing is mindless work, moving boxes around, but there was quite a litany of characters that came in and out of that place that made for good stories always. So there was never a dull moment on the loading docks of Gleason Trucking. And then when I went away to college, I worked at Blimpie, I worked at Phonathon, I worked at, Charlie Brown's a couple summers. I worked at the U Club golf course. I worked at Summit Hills Golf Course a couple summers. And then, then I got my real job, which is teaching high school English and coaching soccer. That was 2004. So I've been doing that since 2004. But I've had various odd jobs since then as well. Like I worked at a winery one summer, and I've done a couple other things in the summers. You got to have a side hustle nowadays. You can't have just one job. You got to do multiple things to get the bills paid. So, especially with an extra mouth to feed. So yeah,
that kid's been greedy, man. What has he ever done for you?
He's a fucking mooch.
Well, you seen how fat he is
He's
too.
stuck on the teeth of the dealers.
Yeah. That is, yes, literally what he does.
Kids. Jesus. You ready for that, Brennan?
I better be, man. I don't have a choice. Right?
So,
right?
Looking at all these sort of like varied, worlds that we've kind of all dipped into, either, low man on the totem pole, whether it's like the teller at a bank or a busboy or driving the sanitation truck around or picking out crabgrass with a fork on the tee box at Summit Hills Golf Course. Like, why did we all feel the need? Like, I started working at 14. Brennan, you said 14 as well. Dave, I'm sure you were around 14, 15 when you started working.
I was at 15, maybe at 16.
Yeah, at the nursing home. So, what is it that, like, we feel, especially at such a young age, when none of us immediately were like, oh, this pertains to what I would do one day. But why do we feel the need to go out and get a job? Like, you all, what's your take?
I'll start. I wanted stuff. I wanted to go to Phil's Records and buy CDs, man. I wanted to get that new face-to-face jam. So in order to do that, I needed money, right? So that was my impetus. I think I was encouraged by my parents to get the job as well. They thought it was, important to instill some sort of work ethic, I guess, and we can get more into that.
Yeah, I think to me it was those two jump out for sure. One is clearly like, how am I going to fund my journeys around the country and the world to see you too? I needed money for that.
And that light wasn't free by any means either. So.
Exactly, and the beer isn't free, so you got to figure this out. But I agree. I think a lot of it too is I know my parents for sure pushed the idea. So I think I would have found my way there anyway, just from a purely utility perspective. I need money, but I'm almost certain that my parents were strongly encouraging the beginning of that for a variety of reasons. One is just simply to get money, but also it's really just the developing those habits and just starting to ingrain that in your world of this is going to be an important part of your life, and you've got to, start to understand what it means to give up things to go work. That was a big
right. Well, I mean, in this article we read, which I guess we'll introduce here in a second, yeah, I got into that. It's such an ingrained part of our culture.
It is.
That's the number one value. What do we do? We went to church on Sundays, and you start work when you're 14.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Those are the main things, right?
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
I find that idea fascinating, though, from multiple perspectives. Just none of us necessarily had to work, but they thought, our parents, and rightfully so. I think
right, we weren't putting food on the table.
Learning to appreciate something is definitely, and work for something. But I feel are there other ways to teach that responsibility of showing up on time, or the you need to work? You can't just work for your parents, because they can say that's not hard enough. Go out and cut the grass. You didn't do a very good job, or you waited 5 days and I asked you to do it. There's no real accountability with that.
It's not the real world.
Right.
It's not the real world with your parents. No, I agree.
So, is there any other, in your mind, alternative to instill that real world experience other than just going out there and, I guess, getting a job?
I guess it depends what you're, again, this sort of gets to the heart of some of the philosophy behind work and life, really, is what is the real world experience you want? What is that for? Right. What is the ultimate goal? What are you trying to learn? What are you trying to get better at? What are you preparing yourself for? And if it is you need to have discipline and time management and learn how to have some asshole tell you what to do, there's probably not much of a better training ground than just doing it. Now, if you just need to learn that to be outside of yourself, or to be a part of a community that's not your family or friends, or to contribute something to society, then I think there are other ways, probably. Whether it's volunteering or arts or some other, God forbid, some sort of church group or something. But I think it depends what you're trying to develop or cultivate. And I think that's not an easy question to answer, honestly.
No, it's not supposed to be. And I think we'll probably come back around to that after we've talked a little bit more about article that we read was from 2015. It's called A World Without Work. It's out of The Atlantic, and it's by Derek Thompson. And in this article, he basically poses the idea that by looking at the history of how America has grown in terms of economic downturns and then recoveries, the recoveries usually come back with new jobs, but as many or more jobs as a result of innovations. He looks at this last economic downturn and recovery as the first time, really, that we have come back with fewer jobs, citing above other circumstances, automation is one of those big reasons that we're losing jobs to different places. And so he poses the idea that sort of where would we go and what would happen if we were forced, not because there wasn't work that needed to be done, but because that work no longer needed to be done by us. And so as a result of that, we have more free time on our hands, or not everyone has to work or work as many hours per week. And we go from a working world to more of a leisure world. And he sort of describes that shift, like what that would be like. Now he walks us through the reasons why he thinks this might be a possibility, as well as some directions that he thinks that we could take if it does start to turn this way, to maintain our dignity, ourselves, and our sense of community and society, and maybe even strengthen those last two. So did I leave anything out, guys? You guys both read the article.
No, I think he weaves this through kind of a visit and a study on Youngstown, which obviously lost a significant amount of their workforce in the late 70s when basically steel was offshored. And I think he tries to use sort of what's happened there as examples of, okay, how might that play out if this were to actually happen? And, I think that clearly we can talk about some of the, with, I guess, mixed results, you could say. But that was kind of the other sort of underlying theme.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to chime in as well, but I think that in some ways the article kind of misses the point though. It still kind of relates this entire shift to I don't know, even Youngstown seems to be a small example. Sure, all the jobs left Youngstown, if you will, but I think what we're going to be dealing with here is much bigger than even what he gets at, because it's going to lead directly to artificial intelligence, and I think we should talk a little bit more about it, I guess, maybe later. But I don't know. Some of the solutions that he brings up too, I thought were kind of laughable.
well, let's start with the Youngstown idea, and the idea that jobs are going to leave places, and right. I think that one of the important things that he brings up is that especially in this country, and this is a lot of where the article takes me is examining how do we define the worth of another human being. So often in our society, we define it by what do you do? How many times do you start a conversation with, what do you do when you're first introduced to someone? And it's a way that we break ground, but we also, in some ways, pass judgment, or at least we think we can tell something about someone by what they do. And as a result of the jobs leaving in Youngstown, one of the things that he talks about is this sharp spike in mental health issues, anxiety, depression, suicides go up, things like that. And not just for economic reasons, because these people lose a sense of self. Like the steel industry defined who they were. It defined the town, the community, and everything that went with it. And to me, as we look at how we elect a president that runs based on the fact that he's going to bring jobs back, that speaks to those people of Youngstown, Ohio, because they feel like maybe he can help me regain my sense, I think, of identity more than anything else, is because that it's not just not having something to go to every day, 9 to 5. That can be in and of itself, I think, psychologically damaging, especially I think maybe for a man who's trying to provide and things like that, feel like they may feel more responsibility. In Youngstown, Ohio, specifically, the examples he gave. But even more than that, I think that you get to a point where you don't know who you are anymore. What do you guys think?
Yeah. No, thanks. I think that there's certainly something to that. Like we all just said before, we all started working at a very, very early age. So, we kind of have to identify with that kind of work as a sort of culture that's ingrained in us. And I've never been out of work for a period of time, when I felt like I needed a job at all for 20 years, however.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of hard to identify with that, but I can absolutely see how it's something. It's ingrained as part of our self-worth, for better or worse. I guess Dave, how was it in Europe when I think did they even mention Netherlands in this article?
Oh yeah, that was one of the countries where what they've done historically is instead of laying people off, they work less.
Right.
which is totally ingrained in their culture. And there's definitely not any sort of lack of pride for that. In fact, there's some pride that they've figured out a way to not work people as hard. So that whole idea of we're defined as Americans by how much we work, they don't have that. So I think then in times of underemployment or, not full-time work, there's not that sense of, I've lost my identity or I don't have work.
Right, and that's like uniting as well, because so much of what's like driving things apart right now is that black and white polarizing divide of haves and have-nots as far as employment goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of weird that we're talking about this now, though, and how jobs were like such a driver of this election. But this article mentions too that employment's at some of its highest rates ever. Although there were some kind of conflicting statistics within this that I have questions about. One in 6 men is out of work by a certain definition. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's where the unemployment data gets a little bit confusing, because the unemployment rate is at the lowest point in quite a while. But right. I think the number where there's been a huge increase is the number of people who are out of the quote work pool or whatever. So the people that are counted in that metric, if they stop looking for whatever reason, they no longer get counted as unemployed. Right. So it's just they're not working, and a lot of those fall in that sort of what you would consider prime working age, men, but also women, but people who just maybe were hopeless or whatever and just stopped looking. So that doesn't really count against the unemployment rate.
What's the real number? I guess I wonder.
That's a good question. Yeah, you could. I just don't know.
I mean, you'd have to separate out the people who are
I think
actively not looking to ones that actively choose not to work.
Exactly, and how do you subjectively decide what should count as sort of unemployment or not? But suffice to say, there's clearly a whole there are millions of people who used to work that don't, in a certain demographic group. The other, Jason, back to your sort of question about the self-worth and what happens when you're not. I wonder, too, because the premise of the article is we may get to a point where there's clearly not as much work needed. So it's a whole kind of new world.
We will get to that point. I think that's inevitable.
And then, exactly. And then to me, but then the examples he's using of how people deal with not working are in today's world. So in Youngstown or somewhere else where there's still an expectation that you do have a full-time job. So I think there's certainly some self-worth that is a driver, but I think just like anything, your self-worth is, and how you view things is driven by how society expects you to feel or what the expectations are. That society now expects that you have a full-time job if you're a man or a woman of a certain age, and if you don't, you are going to feel like less than or like you're lacking something. But in a world where that's not the expectation, are you going to have those same feelings if you're not in a full-time job? I think it would be different.
Yeah, and I think I think that is really at the heart of my question is when that shift starts to happen, how is it that we immediately are able to cope with that shift? Of going from a world where the 40-hour work week is the expectation to a 25-hour work week, or both people in the family having to work, and he mentioned some things in here that they're sort of sidebars in the article, but if you think about things like elder care and child care and volunteering and things that get done for no money at all because they're expected in our society. But that's still work. Taking care of a sick older person that's in your family is work, and taking care of kids is work. If people are taking time off to do that, and nothing opened my eyes more to that than having a kid and staying home days with them. I mean, that's work. And the funny thing to me is that we will yell at someone for not having a job, and we will yell at someone for not raising their kids right. But when one causes the other, when both people working 40 plus hours a week is what's causing you to not spend as much time with your kid, nobody wants to say anything about that. So, I mean, those two things are at odds with one another, and something that people don't put in the same conversation. Like if you have a good job and money, your kid will act right. Like, no, it's
absolutely true. And, you know, I mean, you take it to, I mean, you see, let's just take the extreme example. We've all heard a single mother working 2 jobs and 70 or 80 hours a week and has no time for her kid to either, you know, be there and make sure they're doing the right things or making sure they're doing their homework and they're prepared for school. Like, that has serious consequences. Now, can you just say, well, but damn it, she's hardworking and there's value in that work? Yeah, but is there really? I mean, is that more important than like having the time to actually do some things that would help her children? Now, I get it. That part of it is to keep them fed, but you know, if you get beyond that, then what worth is there in that work?
All of our parents all worked, though, right? Through our upbringing.
No,
I mean,
but they were around though. I mean, they were available, right? I mean,
right. It's not 70 or 80 hours a week.
No, I mean, I think that's why. I mean, that's extreme, but real. I think. I mean,
what's the ideal number of hours in a week to work then?
I don't know.
But we do equate self-worth with it, but I think it's clear also that
I would happily work 30 hours a week or 25 hours a week, and
for 75% of the pay or whatever.
Well, therein lies the question. And I mean, so going back to the article, what if this is forced upon you? I mean, so then do you make everyone adjust their standard of living? Or, you know, if they say, look, we can only give the average American 25 hours of work a week because that's all that's available out there. That's all that we have. I mean, is there something supplemented to somehow make everybody whole, or to, you know?
That's not how it works today, though. It's not the Netherlands, and so they say that you have 0 hours and you have 50, and so it creates a giant chasm there.
One of the interesting things, and I think this was an important point in there too, that I think he didn't really expand upon, and I've actually seen some other charts and data on this. One of the interesting developments over time is capital versus labor, so the amount of money that is held by obviously the business owners versus the workers. And the charts actually, it's actually kind of shocking to see how less and less of the percent is actually going to the workers. And I think the interesting thing is when we get to this society, that by objective measures, the standard of living will be higher. But there's this tipping point where if the very small minority who owns these businesses doesn't give enough money to society, they're not going to be able to buy the shit that they're actually making. So I think to me that's the interesting part. And if it's not through wages, how do you transfer that money? And again, that's where I think at a certain point, if this goes to the extreme, the people do have the power ultimately, and you can make that change. You can, legislate some of that shift just through taxation or whatever. But
that's we're certainly on the wrong path. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's no doubt about it. And I think that's where the current president is pandering by, here and there, bullying these companies for 500 jobs or 300 jobs or whatever. And again, you can argue that this is total bullshit and he had nothing to do with it anyway. But even if he did, this has no significant impact on any of this whatsoever. It's just total posturing. The transfer of wealth, basically. How's it going to happen in the future? I mean, again, through wages is probably the healthiest way. But if that doesn't happen, then again, I mean, you got to figure something else out.
How does that happen at this point, man? Workers of the world unite, bring unions back.
What?
Yeah, unions, but also if the jobs go away, though, that's less of a force. So it really has to be through, government, right? And that's where I think the interesting thing about this country for sure is that the people most impacted by this stuff are, in many cases, voting against their best interest.
Absolutely.
Or some sort of weird principled jingoistic stand, which if they really understood who was looking out for them and not, they sure as shit wouldn't be doing. And that's why it's so fucking frustrating when you see people doing this carrier stuff where I saved your job. It's a total distraction so that they don't see that Paul Ryan's actually busy just figuring out how to give tax breaks to the really rich people, and they don't give a flying fuck about anybody else. And everyone knows this, but
they end up taxing the citizens in that case.
Yeah, absolutely.
For these people's jobs.
The Mexico thing, who's going to absorb the higher cost of goods and then the resulting higher, import tax on things that we import? It's fucking poor and lower middle class people who it hits disproportionately. And but these people are just cheering. Oh yeah, you really think that's going to bring your job? That ain't bringing your jobs back. It's just not how it works. But
it's such an emotional chord, though. Like
it is. It does.
But I think
that's why you can't dismiss that. I don't know how you deal with it though, other than
it's real. People, I don't know, feel how they feel, man. It's crazy. It's fucking hit a chord.
And that's why, you look at what's happened over in the last 3 days with all the ban on immigration, and I think the three of us probably was sick to your stomach, saying, how can anyone think this is not what this country is? But there are 30 or 40% of this country is they think this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, and you have to deal with that. It's real. They really feel that way. As crazy as it seems to us.
Well, so let's think about a second for how does the paradigm shift happen? Because right now, we're talking about getting these people to vote in their best interest or do whatever. The problem, part of the problem, I think, right now is that we had two entire generations basically that were sold on the idea that you have to go to college. Like Dave, you did the teller job. Tellers have to have a college degree. Does a teller need a college degree? Does a bank teller need a college degree?
No, absolutely not.
No, and could you start?
I don't need one for what I do at all.
And could you start, Brennan, in your job, or could somebody start in the bank, a bank teller job, and learn the bank business without going to college and getting into massive amounts of debt?
Absolutely.
So,
almost every job is like that. I don't know. Here's an example. Who I'm sure I'd bring up tonight. My buddy Sass is a civil engineer, and I said, "Can I do your job?" And he said, and I surveyed about a dozen days one summer. That's my civil engineering experience. That was 20 years ago almost. And he's like, "Yeah, if you sat with me for 6 months, you could pretty much do my job. I've got 10 years of experience. That's not free, but yeah, sure, yeah." And I think that would go for any of us, and many people.
So, I 100% agree.
When you talk about shifting the entire model of it, it would have to start. I would think somewhere with training programs for jobs. So if you're only working 25 hours a week or whatever, instead of going to college to find this thing out or that thing out, you just go and start apprenticing, working. And it's not to go so far as what he brings up with the, artisan communities, but everything can be learned through on-the-job training. Now, there might be a certain degree.
Most of it can be learned on YouTube these days.
Right.
So
if you take...
It's true, though, man. I can be an expert at anything, man. That thing in your house, you've done all sorts of shit to that, man. That used to be stuff you had to call somebody in because I couldn't find the information how to do that.
Yeah, that's literally unclog a toilet on YouTube, and they just tell you how to do it.
Man.
Absolutely.
Anything. Yeah. It's a plunger, Dave. Plunger.
I actually know how to do that one.
You don't immediately call the landlord. This isn't my problem. My shit.
I'm a homeowner now.
Yeah, you got no landlord anymore. You're going to start. You're going to have to start.
What did you buy at home?
Yeah, just the end of December, I guess I closed. Yeah, I'm in here now.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, brand new. What did you get, man? Fuck this dumb article. What else you get?
No, I got it's a new build, like, standalone townhouse. Yeah, and like pretty cool neighborhood in Houston. And, yeah, I love it. That's very like modern, wide open.
To cut grass?
Yeah, there's no real yard or anything. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's basically like a straight up. So it's like three stories, and then there's like a terrace on the rooftop. So it's yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's very and open, and yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah.
Nice, man. Well, congrats. That's cool.
Thank you. So yes, I'm having to learn more about domestic, shedding, how to do things.
Yeah, brand new though. I mean,
yeah, no, it's not like there's a lot to do at this point. No, exactly. It's more like hanging pictures and buying furniture.
Sounds tough. Get it delivered. That's my best advice.
That's what I've done.
They can show.
Anyway,
they can show you how to do that on YouTube too.
Yeah, exactly.
Order and get it delivered, and design a room and all that kind of stuff. So back to this idea of like shifting in some way. So like, are we in agreement, the three of us anyway, that we are moving towards a place where there's going to be fewer jobs because there's going to be fewer people needed to do, like, there's some jobs you're always going to need
way fewer
people to do.
And eventually, like, computers way smarter than humans, which is even crazier. But in the near term, yes, way less jobs.
Yeah,
and I think that then the question is, does something else that unforeseen that we have no idea what it is come and suck up the labor pool somewhere else, either as a result of this technology or something again that is unforeseen. But if not, it's highly possible that
human labor is expensive, kind of necessarily so, and almost all of it's going to be outsourced to machines and computers. Like, so I don't know, what circumstance could you possibly think of that, like, there would demand a huge human labor force? Like,
only if it's cheaper than the alternative, or the alternative can't actually do it. I mean, those are the only two cases. So I think we're running up now against both. I mean, you come up with all this IT stuff that's perfectly capable of doing just as well or close to as well, and it's when at scale, it's a hell of a lot cheaper. So. Absolutely.
There will be some jobs.
Right.
I mean, there are certain jobs that, so like I can go to Panera, all I want, I can order that online and I can pick it up. It's already made for me. I don't care who makes it or what machine makes it or whatever else, but I don't have to interact with a person to order my food anymore. But I will say this, when I go to a bar, I want to talk to the bartender. I want to sit down and so like, there's some things.
They never want to talk to me.
Well, there is a majority there. So, but I mean, there's certain.
So, like, the importance of community.
Well, I mean, I think that there's certain jobs that you need human interaction. The job is there because of human interaction. I mean, the reason a bartender exists is not necessarily because he pours a drink. To some extent, he is, but a chimp could pour a drink. All right. And what I'm saying is that
we're all just a bunch of apes, man.
Well, we are a bunch of apes, but apes that like to be social and like to interact and like to have somebody to bitch about our problems to and things like that. So, I mean, I feel like that there's some things that just won't ever be replaced. But I think and I can't even find it in here anymore, but I think he says something like that's about 15% of the jobs that, like, total jobs that couldn't be replaced by automation in some case. So if 15% of the country has a job that's stable and everybody else is running for the hills, we've got to figure out some other way to keep those people interested, involved, sharing the work, have it so they have access to resources and money, if money is still a thing, or everybody will be mining Bitcoin. I mean, I don't know what is the next, like where do you go from if there's only 15% of people left working in our traditional sense?
I think the paradigm shifted so far at that point. It's hard to even speculate because at that point, once again, like computers are probably smarter than us at like almost everything, and can make decisions so much quicker. But like you were saying, Dave, unless there's a huge shift in distribution of wealth, which I'm not on a great track for, I would say.
No.
Right? I mean,
but again, I think yeah, if there is a paradigm shift, I think those conversations become a lot easier. I think. Again, who knows? But then it becomes clear that something.
But it'll happen quickly, right? Like we know that this is coming up.
That's true. Yeah.
And apparently, we're the only ones having these conversations besides all the TED Talks and things I looked up.
Did you cheat?
I'm not cheating, man. Dude, I'm
smart. I'm kidding.
I've become like a huge Sam Harris fan in the last couple of weeks. He talks about this shit all the time.
That's hilarious.
And yeah, I'm reading the Richard Dawkins book, just so happens.
Nice. The God Delusion?
Now,
no, but I bought that too.
Are you talking about the guy from the Family Feud?
He like hung himself like jerking off or something.
No, that's Ray Combs. I'm talking about the original.
That was Ray Combs.
That was Ray Combs. I'm talking about the original host, Richard Dawkins.
Oh yeah, he was
the one that like molested every woman that was on there.
Like on the Match Game and like
sexual predator.
Oh yeah, definitely,
yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Well, the beauty but that's the idea of a democracy, though, is even though people can take the power, I mean, we can always take it back from them. I mean, now again, I don't know.
It's true, man.
Going on now,
it's going the other direction though at the moment, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt.
Like when corporations are people.
Absolutely. And that's part of the problem. The more you swing towards the money goes to the capital versus the labor, the people with the money have more and more incentives to buy the people in government, for sure.
Yeah.
And you see it happening.
It seems harder to get it back, right? I mean, how do I get that money out of
There's no doubt about it. And that's why you're relying on people to, vote in their own self-interest and not be diluted by, jingoism or symbolic gestures that mean nothing to them. But we're not there yet, clearly. We're not there.
No, obviously not, man. Obviously not.
He makes this point at the end. So he's got all these different things that he thinks that we could do. He's got the, hippie society where we're all artisans and craftsmen and learn trades and basically have a barter system where I do this for you and you do this for me. But I think the really interesting thing that brought up there is the idea of being able to swap services and like the idea that, so if I'm working 20 hours a week, okay, and I say, well, I want a little bit more money. I want, to make a little bit more. The idea is that if I can fix toilets and you don't feel comfortable using the YouTube video, I can just put it up on a message board on Amazon Marketplace or on a Craigslist or something, and you just call me. And maybe you have something to swap for that, or maybe you have cash for that, or maybe you pay me in some way. But this idea that like services on demand, and not just like you call a plumber and he gets to you when you get to you, but like there's just a message board of people that you call, like I'll be at the bar until noon. Call, call the bar and I'll come fix your toilet. Like I'm looking for some work today. But that idea of like services on demand and like at will on a message board, because everything is so connected and because people would be able to do it because they would only be working X number of hours a week. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I
mean, that kind of service already exists.
That's the year.
You can call them any time.
Right. Like, but I guess what I'm saying is,
I don't get what the shift is there.
I'm saying
I have a service. I like to sell it to you. Oh yeah, it's called a business. It's like
right. But again, like how many? Have you tried to get a plumber or an electrician or a guy to come, I don't know, do like an odd job of some sort? Or, if you can't do electronics or internet stuff or something like that, there's a line for that stuff. If that was just immediately, I can call and there's somebody in my neighborhood that is going to be able to take care of it right away. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that is a place where we can grow, where it isn't like a company. It's like everybody's employed for themselves. And I don't know. It was one of the things he brought up that sort of struck me as we all have some sort of skills that we might be able to offer that aren't necessarily our profession, but we could make money doing it, I guess is the way to put it. If it came.
Yeah, but I think that train's already left the station. I mean, that's kind of already happening, and
we are all paid for our skills, whatever they are, right?
And even more specifically to your point, the idea of just like either having an app or posting, I need this, and somebody responds. Like, I think that's continuing and will continue to grow. I think the question really is then if what changes when there's a lot more people
doing
that don't have full-time jobs. Does that really change? Is there more of a need for that thing, or are there just more people that now can respond to those sort of needs? I don't know.
Right. One thing that kind of interested me is like, and it's kind of just coming to light a little bit here in my mind, but that, like the time frame in which this is going to happen. I think because I think it will, which is why this is interesting. But like, there's going to be lots and lots and lots more people likely out of work because of this, and then there'll have to be some sort of reaction to that politically, but it's not going to be overnight. So there'll be a long period of time that people are like lots and lots of people are in this desperate dystopic situation, I feel like.
Yeah, talking like 30-40% unemployment, like a crazy high number of unemployed people.
Right. Where efficiencies have just gotten rid of the need for so many jobs.
I think that it's...
Go ahead, Dave.
It's that period, exactly what you're saying. So in that period when a lot of people all of a sudden don't have anything close to full employment, and the expectation of society is still sort of as it is now, which is you're supposed to have a job, and we haven't figured out any way to transfer wealth, that's kind of a scary thought. I mean, how are those people what are they going to do with their time, and how are they going to survive? And I agree. I mean, that will be the time. There's a huge lag.
That'll be the time when things have to be legislated to equilibrium. I mean, that would be the only possibility in that time is that things get legislated to equilibrium so that everybody doesn't, starve or riot or, something like that.
And that's why I think you see the political arguments now. I mean, I think these things will be difficult to overcome until there's critical mass. But the whole idea of, takers and just get a job and, employment is self-worth, you bum, what are you doing? Like, there's so many people that truly feel that way. Like, to overcome that will be difficult. And I think that it will take time, for sure. And I think, again, when the realization comes to people that people aren't losing their jobs because they're lazy or incapable or all these things. It's not that. It's a fundamental change in what is needed in the labor pool. And again, I don't know how long that will take before people accept it enough to say, you're right, this is different. This old thinking of distributing wealth or having social programs it's got to change. But I'm not optimistic that will be easy.
No. And go ahead, Brennan.
I don't know. I just feel like in our lifetimes, what we each have, I guess if we're lucky or unlucky or however you want to see it, we maybe have 50 years left on this planet.
That's probably slightly optimistic.
85. We're
by then,
we're rich white men. We
One of those statements is true.
Well, rich by like certainly.
Yes, yeah,
many, especially global standards.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we'll see it shift the other way in our lifetime. Do you guys? I don't know.
I mean, what I think is that honestly believe that there will have to, if it shifts as rapidly as he talks about in this, and we are completely blindsided by it, I could see us doing away with all social programs and going towards something like a national income, something along those lines. So like a base national income that is paid to every American, and then you can work on top of that if you can find the work or if you can get the money. But it's enough to meet a basic standard of living, and everything has to shift with that. So that means like,
and where's that money come from then?
Well, from the capital, from rich people who are making money off of
it would,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, goods and services. Goods and services.
Tax, right.
Yeah,
And I think that's a more politically viable solution than some other things probably. Whereas you're working to get it.
I mean,
I think that makes sense.
The other alternative is, all the jobs, the government becomes these biggest corporations, and we are all employed by the man, and we all work for credits at the company store. And I mean,
I mean that's pretty much it, though, right? Like,
I mean,
close there, man.
That's if the pendulum doesn't shift. I mean, that is. What's funny is that those are the same people.
I think it all sounds great, personally.
I'll tell you what sounds great is working 25 hours a week. I mean, if that was the standard, I mean, that'd be awesome. Like, I was reading this and he's talking about people not knowing what to do with themselves. I'm like, I would know what to do with myself. I would know absolutely what to do with myself. Like, I have a list a mile long of stuff that I'm like, oh, when I have time, I'm going to do this. I have time. You could do some of that stuff, I don't know.
That's why it was so great when I got that fucking motorcycle running today, man. That thing has been in rough shape for a long time in my garage, and I finally took it for a ride today. It's stalled about 100 times, but
Amazing.
and it's not like registered or legal or anything, but anyway.
Who cares?
But I was out there. I didn't crash.
No, I don't know. I'm still thinking about this. I definitely think it's inevitable that there will be less need for employment in the current way we view the world, but I don't know. I think that's such a view from like the current world. I just have to believe there's a decent chance that there will be some development or need for things that humans can do that technology can't. And again, I have no idea what that is or what that would be, but it would not surprise me if there's this whole, and maybe it's just even you get to a certain standard. Obviously, this would raise the world standards tremendously, and then what else would humans or society want? And maybe that want requires a lot of human capital and time, and I don't know. I don't know what that would look like or is, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities.
Doesn't he have a JFK quote in here somewhere about like?
Yeah,
when he's talking.
If work is work. What was it?
Here it is.
That was my awful JFK impression.
Oh, here's
amazing.
Here's an even worse one coming at you. If men have the talent to invent new machines that put men out of work, they have the talent to put those men back to work.
I don't know what that means, honestly.
I think, to me, that is, I mean, I think I know what he's saying, but that's not what I'm saying, because that is finding work for the sake of work, which is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think there would be something that fundamentally develops that would pull the work, that would require it, or because just creating it just to employ people, that ain't going to work. I mean, that's just not going to work. I mean, I don't think. But again, maybe I'm I don't know, maybe I'm being too optimistic about it, but
I just don't see that like as a possibility. Like, I think that the computers and the machines will be able to do virtually everything better than us.
In our current world, and thinking, I have no doubt that's true. So, yeah, it really comes down to what are the things, even in 100 years, that we think humans will be able to do? And maybe the answer is nothing. I don't know. I mean, the point about, I think that was a sort of flippant point about a psychiatrist or whatever it was, but I get it. So even things like that, and you could argue that in 100 years, yeah, everything will be better than humans. But that's with the current sort of space and the current things that we do and want. But maybe when you get to that point where AI or IT can handle everything, you start doing other things or looking for other. I don't know. I can imagine that would happen, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like the whole God, the definition of value and wealth has to be completely reworked in order to even consider.
When I think that was the fun sort of. I had this conversation a couple Christmases ago with my brother-in-law when Bitcoin was booming. And, but to challenge, I think that's the fun thing, is to challenge the current monetary model or the current, social standard, the current way that we look at work. I mean, I think that has to be done because it will evolve. It has every generation, decade, whatever you want to say, century since humans have been in existence, it's evolved. So the idea, which is why I took issue from the get-go with Donald Trump's, not even him as a person or politically, yeah, I took issue with all that, but his slogan itself, "Make America Great Again," you're reaching back for something that's a foregone time. It's not.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And it never fucking existed anyway.
Right. Well, I know.
Right. Yeah.
We know that.
Utopia was never here, man. We were fighting a bunch of wars. People were dying.
It's awful. And no one's ever really even asked him, I don't think, or pressed him on the point. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? What does that mean?
That's why we're geniuses on this podcast. That's why we have high listenership.
And you know what it means to a lot of the people that voted. You know what it means for a lot of the people that voted for him. One is, certainly, I had my manufacturing job that paid pretty well. But a lot of it is, some of these people who are not like me were not a prominent part of this country. That's what they mean.
Right. No.
Right.
Period. I mean,
but also a lot of these people, they didn't have to fucking see any Indians or probably hardly any black people a lot of the time, and now they're inundated with
on TV and on their phone,
media, everything. I don't mean to fucking single out news here, God.
No, but I think.
But anyway, just oversaturated with stimulus of this thing. And they used to not have to deal with any of this shit, and now they pretend they live in New York City or something.
And one example of somebody doing something that they abhor, it's just, you take it to the extreme. And anyway, I could go on, but
yeah.
Well, I don't know.
It just seems like
we're a bunch of whining snowflakes. Apparently, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. Melting year by year.
Well, we all are. I mean, it's getting hotter, so we're all melting year by year. And the only way we're going to solve it is to do away with science funding. So, to sort of wrap up here, there was, this was part of a stimulus packet that my kids are given for their AP class, and there's 6 things.
What do you mean by stimulus packet? Is that like Viagra?
I 100%.
It's like a tablet that fizzes up in water and you drink it.
That is exactly what it is, in hopes to make them smarter people. And so
I like it.
No, it comes with six different pieces of writing on the same topic, and they're all supposed to get them thinking about something in a certain way, so that they can then come up with their own topic related to work or whatever that might be. But I was sort of struck after I sent this out and finished reading it. The Albert Camus short story, The Myth of Sisyphus, followed it. And it's basically, have you guys read that? I was going to send it out to you, but I just wanted to, I kind of want to wrap up with this. Have either of you guys read it?
I did.
No, I don't know.
The title doesn't sound familiar, no.
Okay,
No.
so basically it talks about how Sisyphus, he's the guy that pushed the boulder up the hill in Greek mythology. And that the idea is that he tricked all the gods. They got pissed off and they're like, we're going to give him the worst punishment ever, which is like menial labor, which means nothing, like work that means nothing and never goes anywhere. Like he goes up the hill, gets to the top, the boulder rolls back down, he comes back down, he pushes it up again. But in the myth of Sisyphus,
Sounds like meaningful work to me. I'd stand behind that.
in the myth of Sisyphus, Camus talks about, he says, the hour where Sisyphus is walking back down the hill, he says that is the hour of consciousness. At these moments, he leaves the heights and gradually sinks towards the layers of the gods. He is superior to his fate. He is stronger than his rock. And so it's basically saying that, like, if you look back at the article that we read, it talked about how, like, we should go more towards our callings and less towards a job. And I started the podcast by saying, like, well, why did you work? And we're like, well, we worked because, we thought it would give us these certain skills, like intangible skills, things like time management or work ethic. And we got paid and we wanted to get paid. But in this myth of Sisyphus, basically what it's saying is that, like, he knew this job was shit, but he found a way he beat the gods because he found a way to take pleasure in this awful thing that they made him do. And so I guess coming back to this, sort of idea of work and whether the paradigm is going to shift. I mean, I guess ultimately the question is, like, how much of our life do we spend doing our job, like working? It's a shitload. Like, I don't know the percentages of it. I know I spend a lot of time shitting, but I take pleasure in that. So I don't mind. I don't mind the fact that I
What kind of pleasure are you taking?
The fact that it feels better than when it was in me.
It's relief. I mean, It beats the alternative.
Or sleeping or eating. These are things that are, that we do, but we can take pleasure while we're doing them. And it's sort of the point of the myth of Sisyphus, or one of the points, is this idea of, like, finding pleasure in the thing that's awful, no matter how awful it might be, or how meaningless it might seem, or something like that. So, I mean, from a philosophical perspective in all of this, I guess the biggest thing is to, no matter how the paradigm shifts, is to kind of keep an open mind and know that if you can find a way to make it so that it's not miserable, then it won't, even if you are working for the man, even if you are doing it just for the money or selling your soul or doing whatever, can you find a way to live with that and feel like you still got the better of the situation? I don't know.
And I think even in a world where you're not working as much, in finding pleasure and enjoyment in doing something non-work related in that time that you have. I mean,
Sure.
I think that's also applicable. For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, it's all about that balance, though, right? I think that maybe we are too caught up in work rather than play, and it would probably behoove us all to agree that 30 hours a week was enough to get by and feed yourself and maybe a little family and be able to actually survive together with that. Yeah. But that doesn't seem to be the case right now, man. I know it's hard to think beyond now and in like almost 3 dimensions. You have to consider so many different possibilities with each one.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, dudes, it's been fun. I think that about wraps it.